In recent years, genre hybrids have become the new catnip for developers, from RPG FPS to FPS RTS, and even RTS MMORPG. Hybrids are popping up all over the place. These games that exist somewhere between genres without ever really committing to the standards for either often suffer from lack of depth. Dungeon Defenders, then, has a lot stacked against it, and boy does it ever rise to the occasion. Take 1 part tower defense and mix in 2 parts Torchlight-style action RPG, bake at 666 degrees for a couple of years, then let stand from delays for another year, and you'll have something that looks remarkably similar to Dungeon Defenders. This game does what developers have tried to do with hybrids for so long, seamlessly blend genres without sacrificing too much of the depth of either. In Dungeon Defenders, you begin by selecting a class and some loose customization options including colors and name. The classes currently available are the Squire, rated the easiest to play with high hit points, powerful defensive towers, a cleaving melee attack, as well as a couple more offensive tower options. The Apprentice, rated second easiest with magical towers that offer low cost single target damage, higher cost area of effect, and some cheap magical blockades that steal elemental immunities from your enemies. Next up in order of difficulty according to the game is the Huntress, but personally I would rate the Huntress as the most difficult class to play well. She uses traps which require constant attention so they don't run out of charges and disappear, as well as constant management of ammo, as the longer you take to hit the reload button, the longer it will take to reload your weapon, which can mean the difference between a kobold exploding and taking enemies with him, and that same kobold exploding in your face. However, I may be biased as Huntress is the class I have chosen to play the most. The final class is the Monk. The Monk uses auras, big semi-spherical domes of varying colors. The auras range from a snare aura to a lightning damage aura to one that will confuse monsters into fighting each other. But be careful, the auras lose health as they are active, and so, like the traps, albeit not as urgent, they require in-combat repair. This game can be played single player with one player swapping between each class to take advantage of their various towers and the synergy between them. However, the game really shines brightest in co-op where the difficulty is higher. Even the addition of one more player takes this game from walk in the park status to he has how many hit points? Panic. The quality of towers and upgrades you can build is determined by a level-to-level pool of currency known as mana crystals. Mana crystals are initially gained in a round through opening chests, but throughout the round are dropped by the monsters you kill. However, you cannot simply spam level 1 towers and expect to win, as the amount of towers you can construct as a team is limited by defense units, a sort of population cap which must be shared and rationed carefully as a team. If one guy goes crazy with harpoon turrets in one part of the map, there may not be defense units available for defensive towers in another. Battle occurs once all players have checked in that they are ready during a build phase, which transfers the game to the combat phase. The combat phase sees you against a set of waves of bad guys, as in all tower defense games, marching towards your precious Eternia crystals from designated spawn points. However, the difference is that you are in control of your hero, who can dive into battle and even be killed, respawning a short while later sans the mana you had in your pool. This really alters the feel of defensive aspects of this game. It feels more desperate somehow when you're standing next to your tower swinging wildly at encroaching enemies than when you're the omniscient Overmind staring down as your legion of towers blasts everything without your interference. Building and upgrading are still possible in the combat phase, however are significantly limited by hero cast speed, a stat that can be upgraded with the points provided by leveling up your hero. Level ups occur in standard ARPG style during the build phases, which occur before each combat phase. A bong sound is made and the character sheet opens up with all upgradable stats blinking hungrily for any available points. Any excess mana or items dropped by monsters or chests that are not needed by any players can be left on the ground, where at the start of the next combat phase they will be automatically sold and the mana profit distributed equally amongst players' banks. This persistent mana bank is shared amongst all of your characters and is used to buy items from the tavern vendor, the tavern being a neutral hub, or upgrade the items you already have. Combat phases and build phases alternate as you complete the increasingly difficult waves of any given level. Many levels also culminate in a boss wave, a wave that is spearheaded by an incredibly strong, often incredibly huge monster. These boss monsters can break your barricades and lay bare your Eternia crystal if they are not properly addressed, and there are different strategies that need to be employed to counter each boss. The higher the difficulty, the better loot that is dropped both by monsters and by the boss. It is important at this stage to caution against raising the difficulty level before your character is ready. As someone who plays every game at maximum difficulty, I found Dungeon Defenders shaking its head disapprovingly as I loaded into the first level, Deeper Well, on insane difficulty with a low-level Squire. In short, the game punished me. Think of difficulties in this game more akin to the difficulties in an ARPG than a tower defense game. You don't start Diablo 2 on hell difficulty with a level 1 character. The game rightfully will not let you. Dungeon Defenders' insane difficulty is a similar challenge. You need a powerful character with powerful towers to clear the nightmarishly destructive waves of insane difficulty. The game is not, however, without its shortcomings. The classes are not perfectly balanced, and the quick match often places people of huge level difference together in a match. Further, experience in a match is not shared equally. Rather, the player who lands the killing blow, whether with their hero or tower, is the player that gets the experience. This can lead to some big early disparities that somewhat impede the group-oriented play of the game. Not to mention, public groups in quick match tend to have people who know the best place to hoard their towers for experience, rather than worrying about completing the level successfully. In my experience playing online, I often found myself with a nice defense set up near an Eternia crystal, only to have a random teammate place their towers in front of mine to make sure they got the experience. Trendy can hardly be blamed for the behavior of their players, but it would greatly cut down on this silly undercutting if experience were straight shared between all players. The most persistent problem, however, occurs when placing a tower. The game robs all but rotational control of the camera, placing it in a top-down view that is not high enough to gain context of tower placement, and leaves the player largely unable to see the region their tower is covering. But these are minor complaints in what is an otherwise exquisitely composed outing. Dungeon Defenders is an exciting, stylized tower defense action RPG that comes alive with 4-player co-op. It successfully blends two genres without sacrificing much depth from either. In many ways, this feels like what I've always wanted a co-op tower defense game to be. While frustratingly difficult at times, the challenge only embellishes the collective joy when through teamwork it is finally overcome. So what kind of content and challenge does Dungeon Defenders provide? How long will it last you? Well, with 4 character classes to level up to a max level of 70, along with a liberal handful of levels with 4 difficulty settings, as well as challenge modes, not to mention the frightening variety of enemies and the depth of the co-op play and loot system, which includes the awesome menagerie of pets you can purchase or acquire, you should easily be able to get a few dozen hours of fun out of Dungeon Defenders. At $15, that is some serious bang for your buck. If you have any interest in tower defense or action RPGs, Dungeon Defenders is a great choice at a great price.